The chair will call the Macon County Airport Authority meeting to order for September the 30th. And I want to welcome everyone here for this meeting. Appreciate you coming. And we'll get started. I think we have maybe one or two members who needs to leave a little bit early if we can get through. We'll try our best to get through this agenda and get it behind us so we can get out a little bit early this afternoon since it's such a pretty day. First order of business, of course, is to approve the minutes from the last meeting. I'll make a motion to approve. Second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no, and they're approved as made. Thank you, Teresa. As always, for a fine job of getting minutes out to us, and a good job taking minutes. Okay. I don't think there's any member here that can do the job you're doing on taking minutes. We all realize our limitations. Public comments. We have. Do we have anybody here from Norrell? Glad to have you with us today. And you have the floor.
Gentlemen, I'm really sorry I have to bring this to your attention because I know you like coming here, looking forward to complaints and hearing about problems that people have with the Airport Commission, but I am here only to give you the greatest compliment for putting in that redone runway so fast, so professionally. I did have to put up with a lot of beep, beep, beep during the summer when I tried to sleep, but gosh, it's such a gorgeous job. And when we think how horrible that accident was that instilled this, you were just marvelous to suck it up and say, let's correct this. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
I thought you were going to yell at me for flying over your house.
You haven't. You've been very good about that.
Don't roll it in.
You thought it, she didn't know it was you, Gary.
No, she did.
She did? Okay.
She already yelled at me.
Okay, is anyone else here from the public like to make a comment or whatever, criticism? All right, we'll move on to our next agenda item, and we're glad to have our engineer, Charlotte, here with us.
Thank you, Miles.
Jimmy, we give you the floor.
Shouldn't hear any of that, I don't think, but they're supposed to be back in here Sunday night, Neil, and they say it's going to take basically 5 nights for them to get the marking completed. That was the schedule as of this afternoon. Last week, they were supposed to have been in here Thursday and Friday to get started, but they got rained out somewhere else again. So right now, it's scheduled to come back in Sunday night and finish the marking. And once that's done, the whole job should be complete. We'll do a final acceptance inspection and a punch list if there's anything associated with that, and move towards closing it out.
Will we have any impact as far as closure during the day?
No, should not.
And airplanes landing aren't going to get wet paint splashed up on their belly?
It dries in 15 minutes. It's a waterborne paint. The contractor is over his contract time per the contract documents, and we'll deal with that in accordance with the contract documents. Jimmy?
I'm not going to do this. It's the hot seat. What can you say?
You want to cover any other items?
Yeah, just go ahead and
All right.
bring us up to date on.
Miles kind of gave me a shopping list, or you guys did the last time I was here, to check on some items. The state came out and did their biannual, I guess you call it, 50-10 inspection. And you saw the list Pete had, and there were some obstructions noted off of both ends. In 2010, we had a surveyor come out and do an obstruction survey, which is what I have here in front of me, and he identified obstructions off of both ends that the airport authority was going to take care of themselves without making it a project. He was scheduled to come back during the taxiway design survey and certify to the state that the ends of the runway approaches were clear of obstructions. Well, when he came back to do that, they're not. So you still have items out there that apparently haven't been taken care of that need to be cleared. once the items that were identified originally in 2010, when they're taken care of, as the notes on the drawing say, there's still some trees beyond those. You can't see everything till you obviously cut down what's kind of in front of them, but there is obstructions, or there are obstructions off of both ends that do need to be dealt with, as well as what was on the 5010 inspection from DOA, which are more close in.
And you have a list of those?
Pete's got that list.
He's got that list.
You have the opportunity to make obstruction clearing a grant eligible project that you put out to bid and actually hire a contractor to come in and take care of that, if that's something that you want to entertain.
Is that the consensus of everybody? Let's get that done.
Yes, I agree.
Let's get it done.
We will talk to DOA and get the paperwork set up to make that happen. You got your FY13 grant, still got some money in it. You just got your 14 grant, which you haven't fully accepted yet, which that needs to happen at some point, as well as the design grant for the taxiway and the construction grant for the taxiway. So I think in November you were talking about maybe addressing those.
Tell me a little bit about this grant. Is this money that if we get a grant for this, it takes somewhere else?
Every year you get what's called non-primary entitlement money. It's a $150,000 grant.
And the grant period, you're saying the eligibility would be beginning about when?
It's a 4-year period. As soon as you get the grant notification, you get a letter of intent from the state, basically saying you've got this amount of money.
So what would the board need to do to formally start that process?
At some point, you're going to have to go to your county commission to get your local match obligated to that grant, or to any grant that you haven't gotten obligated to.
I believe, Teresa, did we formally accept that grant? And so all we need to do now is just get the match money for it. Yeah, okay.
And your 13 grant, you already got your match money for. That's-
Yeah, because last meeting, and I guess I hope everybody saw my email where I sent it out the next morning and said, oops, because of these MPE grants now, they're calling them, it's the same grant number except it's taking MPE in it. So we've got the 1.14.1, which is the MPE grant for 2013, which we spent a piece of for the apron revamp and those other couple of things we've talked about. And then the 1.14.NPE.1, which is the ones you got the letter for, that you brought the letter to the last meeting, is the 2014 MPE grant, which is $150,000, needs a 16,667 match. So you do have, there's going, it looks to me like just off the cuff, there's going to be possibly around 90,000 or so left out of the NPE grant for 2013. Not even, that you've already gotten a match for. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
available to use.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
As soon,
Yeah, it's already matched, right.
it's already matched. The only thing is the Division of Aviation would have to agree to change the scope
Sure.
of the project.
Right.
And then once they did that, it would,
Now, will you write up a set of specs for this?
Yes, it would be a full-blown, have to put out for bid,
Yeah.
per the bidding
So
requirements.
you'll take care of all that, we don't have to worry about that. So then you'll bid it out.
There'll be a scope and fee associated, it has to be sent to DOA for them to approve, as well as you have to request a grant description change, which includes obstruction clearing if it's not in that description. That's what
We probably could go ahead and when Pete gets back, Pete's been working with contractors on the previous projects that we had. And when he gets back, we could go ahead, I think, probably let him go ahead and get some bids on it.
Well,
I mean,
you gotta follow the process.
I know, I understand that. But what we need to do is go ahead and get some bids while we're going through the process.
Well, getting bids is part of the process. You gotta get all the
Right.
grant paperwork
Right.
up, then you gotta solicit it, and those bidders have to be on the NCDOT pre-qualified list. They can't.
Well, these are, because they've been paid back to DOA for about three different projects. I mean, I just kind of thought you came
Yeah,
to, you know,
that's
kind of
fine. I
expedite.
mean,
Well, it'd be good to include them on the bid list.
Right, anybody
It's
that
gotta
is-
be done the way he's
Yeah.
saying it, because
Yeah,
they gotta
well,
know what to
sure.
bid on, so
Yeah.
everything's
Yeah.
apples to apples.
Right.
You know, those things they've gotten out the way, I mean, they won't even be able to certify the patents either until.
That's correct. Now, we are
So
in
that's
the,
going to affect that a little bit.
we're in the process of trying to get a flight check established on the Pappies since they were moved over into runway.
Okay. Tell me what we need to do to go ahead and get this thing on the fast track.
Currently, you don't have to do anything. All your grant paperwork's in place. We just got to get the stuff to Teresa, submit to the DOA for a grant description change, and then get the scope and fee set up instead of bid time. And go through
And
that
you've got the
process.
authority to do that now.
Yes.
Let's do it. So you probably look at 60 days to do that.
Easy. And depending on how it's approached as far as getting soil and erosion control permits, if you clear something and don't grub it, you don't have to get an erosion control permit. The way we've been handling most of these are we get them cleared and then they grind the stumps in place. So you're not actually taking up the whole root ball and disturbing the ground. If you disturb an acre or more, you gotta get a erosion control plan approved and put those measures in place and then take them back out when you're done. So depending on how much is involved here.
There shouldn't be that much involved, I would.
Well, you got quite a few. I mean, I don't know how many acres I'm looking at here, but you guys have seen these drawings on some of the four codes. Eric had presented them to you. But,
Cut on that one, though.
Yeah. The only, going by memory now, but when the last time Base was up here, it's been about 2 months ago, he was talking to me about that. Trees that come in on the east end of the runway here. There's some trees right on the creek there, he said need to be taken out. That's the only ones he mentioned to me. On this end, I don't know anything about it.
well, he's just looking at it visually. I mean, he's not
Well, yeah, true.
surveying
Right.
to obstruction
Right.
standards, but
Yeah.
that's what Jimmy Cass had looked at with some of the close-in stuff along the ditch line and on the bank side. But when you go out here, 10,000 feet, that's what the approach.
Did I follow that in?
On that end, when this survey was done, the extension was not in place yet, so we projected that elevation and distance out and tried to do the survey from that. So yeah, there were quite a few. I mean, there are 16 on here.
Is that on airport property?
Airport Road, yes.
Airport, own property, are we gonna? have
Yes.
to- Probably not.
No, it's on that, that farm out there on the end. Goes out to Rogers.
Is there any issue about
That's exciting.
getting permission from them?
Just be a process.
Yeah.
Do you have a height zoning ordinance in place? I'm assuming you do. If you got a height zoning ordinance in place, that's what that document is for. That's a mandatory item for airports from North Carolina.
Talking about it.
We were talking about that monorail.
Commissioner.
Yeah.
Tate remembers that meeting up about the tower.
To the tower, yeah.
We talked about that at that one time. And we had one in place.
Typically, as a checklist item, DOA requires every airport to have a height zoning ordinance in place. And in that ordinance, it covers these Part 77, as they call them, surfaces that give you this footprint that you're looking to try to keep clear. Now, I'd have to look at your height zoning ordinance to see how much, or you would need to look at it, or someone would need to look at it, but I'm sure that's obviously a legal document if it's in place.
Wouldn't it have been updated with the extension?
No, it would have covered that footprint. But we'll look at moving
Yeah.
forward and trying to make this obstruction
Well,
clearing project.
if we could lean on our attorney to check into that and communicate back to Jimmy. But I'm pretty sure there's one in place. We'd have to have it in place, and all the stuff we done
And if you don't have that, then obviously you got to go through the process of notifying property owners and getting their permission to go on the property. And hopefully it just ends at
I don't know
that.
how far that extends, but I know we got one.
But obstruction removal is a mandatory requirement, but it's also eligible.
Okay, we'll certainly go to work on that. Okay? If everybody's in favor, I believe everybody's on board. Get that done.
Yes, I believe we don't have a choice.
There was
We
also
have a choice, but it's not very good.
a request to look into your obstruction lights as far as having someone try to perform some maintenance on those. I did contact a couple of airfield lighting contractors, they don't climb towers that high, is what they told me. I gave Miles some information with a company in Tennessee. That's what their site says they do, is cell tower maintenance and obstruction light repairs, I guess you could call it. So he's gonna make some contact there, so he can get somebody lined up to possibly come do that. But that's the only lead that I had on it, as far as addressing that question.
I did call Blanton's Electric company, the company put those things in, and they're out of business. So that, we hit a dead end street there. But I asked Steve Lever, who is very familiar with these towers, to come down and be with us today. Steve, sure, we appreciate Steve, you being here with us. If you don't mind, would you give us the board some kind of direction and some information that might be helpful to us on getting somebody that can fix these lighting, fix this lighting system for us and do the maintenance. We need somebody also that can do the maintenance. So, do you have any suggestion or any information? to share with us?
I called Nathan Gibson and asked him, he's like a squirrel. He said that he could do it. He's a local boy. He can handle it. You know, I don't know, they're not gonna maze with you much.
One of the things we have to be careful about, I guess, is our insurance.
Yeah, well, you'd have to have his insurance.
You have to have insurance, that
Yeah.
sort of thing, but we've been talking about it. Nathan Gibson.
Nathan?
Yeah. But you know,
Mr. Chairman, I've climbed all the towers for fun. If you teach me how to do electrical work, I'd do it for it.
I ain't got anybody maintenance that wants to get up there, I don't know what they're doing anymore, you know, the disabled get up there.
Some of them have safety lines on them. You just hook up, and if you free fall, you're going to be stopped.
Do you have anybody else that you can think of that might be able to contact?
Not right off.
How about, you did give us some information on this speaker
Right.
here. That looks pretty impressive. I don't know what he contacted installed.
I emailed that to you there, wasn't it? Like 20-something.
That's been a year ago, so.
Yeah, well, I don't think that'd probably be.
Shouldn't change that much.
No, I don't think it'd take that much.
About $25,000.
Nathan Gibson for that.
Yeah, he might jump.
I mentioned that beacon, I don't know when it's ever been in. I remember back a long time ago, it really didn't work. I don't know when it's ever worked. They have a beacon up there
Now, that's a rebuilt one, and it's supposed to be fairly maintenance-free. It's not on the belt, yeah, rather than change. It's not LED lights.
Probably gonna offer get that, probably repair that. They don't know that. Could that be Grand Island? They don't tell me how many times it's been shot.
You will probably come closer, I'll say, for the beacon being grant eligible than the obstruction lights. They don't consider that probably a maintenance line. But the rotating beacon, possibly changing that out or putting in a new one. They do refurbish these old 36-inch diameter beacons, as they call them. Used to run about $6,500, $6,800 just to get it refurbished, but then you gotta get somebody to take it up and down.
What I have in mind, Jimmy, is our $150,000 grant we got, that our discretionary monies. We can, it's my understanding we can use that money for safety issues. Am I wrong or right?
No, you can use it for those type items, but again, you have to go through the process of
Right, I understand.
putting it in play, if you will, and getting a contractor that's eligible.
Right, yeah.
My suggestion to you would be to Walker and Whiteside is the name of the company out of Greenville, South Carolina. They do airfield lighting.
Yeah.
More than glad to get Terry Rogers or Benjamin Betzel to give you a ring and maybe come out and take a look at what you got up here and see what their thoughts
How
are.
high is the tower that the beacon's on?
Usually 52 feet.
52 feet looks to me like if you get a local electrician to have a license and get a crane or a basket, get up there, you wouldn't even have to have nobody climb. I mean, you could probably get somebody like Walter or somebody like that, that's a licensed contractor. To get a crane, hire a crane, and go up there and get the thing off, and send it off and have it refurbished.
And these guys, they do this.
Steve, you respond to that?
Yeah, we've done that before.
If
Take
it's,
it down before the train. We got one at other man's property over there. You know, Joe Sanders got one that'll reach it.
That'd be the easiest way to do it. You wouldn't have the safety issues or anything else that you'd have to worry about. And have a licensed contractor do it.
a lot of times these guys wind up with one in their warehouse already refurbed sitting there and.
Then we could call Whiteside and ask him if he's got one. I mean, he's a pretty good guy, and he might even just trade with you. And then Walter can put it back up there, simple to fire up. It's just 220, isn't it? Or is it three-phase?
Single.
Single phase?
Yeah. Matter of fact, it's just 120. Those photos there. Any, they're simple as nothing. It's getting up our problem.
That you can get with a crane, there's a road that'll get you to the.
Well, this big beacon light up here, I guess that house, I don't know if it's been up or not, the house on the other side over there. We got his driveway there one time, way back years ago. But every time we go up through there, we got to put new gravel and stuff on the road down along. They claim them big truck tires or something.
Are you talking about going up Beacon? Are you talking about going up Beacon Hill Road?
Somebody in town.
Yeah. I guess that's what you call it. Gravel road.
Maybe just get stationed where you stay there.
Mr. Chairman, there's a whole nother access on the other side of that house. And you only go onto their property for about 50 feet. And it's, there are 3 houses at the end of that road. It's a much better road to go up.
Steve, if you don't mind, would you investigate the possibility of, let's live locally? And, I don't know exactly what the process would be, getting it paid for. We'll let Teresa and Jimmy work that out. Since they,
Do you want me to contact Walker Whiteside?
yeah, oh, yeah, we, go ahead.
And I'll just have them talk to you, and if you need to talk with Steve or whatever, you can.
Between the 3 of us, surely we can get this thing rolling. I mean, we've been working on it for years, so.
On, or if you need to, you'll find a new.
It's got to come down either way.
Either way, that's right. That's exactly right. Steve, would you have a time to help us with that?
Sure.
All right. Well, when can you get on this project?
So you got the money right now?
Yeah, we got.
That's
We got
amazing.
$90,000 in there.
Well, yeah, I guess, Mom, that, I guess you need to decide whether you're gonna do the lighting or the infrastructure.
Yeah, we need to see what it costs to light.
I mean, because that 90,000 is the only piece you've got right now that hasn't been, the match hasn't been
Right, I
voted
understand.
for yet.
We got to get the other.
So if you wanna get both going, you know, you might wanna look at some.
Mr. Chairman, you go ahead and take the light thing, because it's got to come down anyways.
Right.
And it'd start the process.
Do you know what's wrong with the light? You're saying take it
I
down?
wouldn't take the light
I wouldn't
down,
take it
lay it
down.
down, put up.
Well, Steve checked it out here not long ago, and it's not working. It's when the one with gears on it for it.
Can you fix it on the side?
Well, you had the other light, I put the other light up, I'll take it down.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking 2 trips to the crane.
I got you, I'll retract. What side might have it?
Very possible. We can talk to them and see.
Well, sounds like maybe, you know, we're getting geared up here to make some progress on this thing. I mean, we keep this thing here for a year, I'm not paralyzed. Let's get it done. You got any kind of model number or anything? Yeah.
I'd
It's
probably,
just the 36 inch down.
yeah, that's about like this.
It's been there for that long.
I think that brochure said it weighed 450 pounds, so you're talking nothing.
Okay, is that pretty
Well,
much
they
the
don't- they'll
consensus
talk
of the
one
board
time.
members? Go ahead and let Steve get started on this thing, and we'll get this number, Jimmy give us this number of Whiteside. And so we'll have a couple people who draw on their expertise and get these lights fixed. Now, how about the construction lights? You're gonna get this?
Well, Nathan said he'd do it, you know.
Okay.
I said, I didn't talk to him about money, he just said he'd look, you know, he talked to his back, you know,
Yeah.
so,
We want fixed.
you know. I mean, he's lucky, he would have to call somebody else, and there's a trick,
You know,
and all that stuff.
give us, we need some idea how much it's gonna cost. If we can't, go too blind.
I wouldn't pay over $50 trip charge and, $50 an hour, it's me. Being like that, it's just,
Think you like that.
huh?
I think,
Think you like that, don't you?
Well, you know, you look at the name, the insurance and all that stuff, you know, it's probably worth that. You know, he may be up for 30 minutes, most time, at the most.
that's
Getting
gonna
up
be
for
for
a
you.
trip.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would say that's.
I just don't know off the top of my head, I don't know.
You probably pay another electrician probably more than that.
Yeah, yeah, we're certainly be glad to pay a fair price, whatever.
I just.
We're not cheapskates, even though we don't have no money, we're. Okay,
All right, I think that's all the items I had.
anybody have a question for Jimmy? Thank you, Jimmy, appreciate you.
Thank you.
Bring us up to date on everything, and we get a lot of good comments. We really appreciate the comment from Norwell and today, that made our day. That goes in the record too, what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got all that.
Okay, maintenance report, Mr. Haycock called me about an hour ago now, and he's up in Ohio, and he was scheduled to give us an update on maintenance. We did find the key for the gate, so we can get in there and do the I guess, bush hogging now on this bottom down here, that needs it real bad. We got that, in fact, I came by a while ago and opened the gate myself, so I know it's open. I asked Teresa if she would give us kind of update on our funding. If you would, go ahead and give us a report on that.
It's pretty much like the last time we talked about it, with the exception of a couple of things. One is that new grant that we just spoke about, the NPE.14, which is a $150,000 grant, which they just always put airport improvements, Jenny will tell you, and then you usually determine what the scope of your project's going to be at a later date, and that requires a match of 16,667, has not been matched yet. And then we have of course, we have I'm just saying the last digits, but the 1.14.2, and that's to rehabilitate the runway and the parallel taxiway, and that's $2,250,000, for which that you have not asked for the match as of yet. It's going to be a $250,000 match from the commissioners. And other than that, everything else is matched and going. We've got the one NPE grant for 2013, which we took the piece of it for the apron rehab, the no-ride study, and then talking about spending the funding for the lighting that you're talking about. All that's coming out of the one grant that's the exact same amount as the 2014 NPE grant. It was just for the 2013. It's already been matched by the commissioners. There's going to be a balance left after the apron rehab. They had made us and asked us to change the entire scope of that grant to the apron rehab project, just so that we could go ahead and get the reimbursement back and get that particular project closed out. And Basil has told us that as you all determine what projects you want that money, the rest of the money to be applied to, that we would just have to change the scope of the grant at that time. So a suggestion would be to do, if you want to spend that for the rotating beacon, is to go ahead and request the scope of the grant be changed, because we're this close to getting the money. We're waiting on one document, I think, from the previous contractor that they need. I think that's the DBE, that one DBE form. Nancy's got a couple of questions on that. And other than that, the request has been sent in, and we're just waiting to get it back. The great news is, does anybody have any questions about that?
So we don't lose that money if we didn't use it. We just changed the grant.
They're different. The NPE grants, they've already said that you can change the scope. As a rule, like Jimmy was telling us last meeting, as a rule they just take it back and redistribute it. And so, like in this project that we're talking about with the runway, Jimmy's saying that they're coming in $100,000 under budget, which is great and good. But the DOA is not going to turn around and say, well, here, Macon County Airport, here's $100,000. They'll reabsorb it. On these NPE grants, they're a little bit different on it because of the type grant they are. If they tell you they're going to give you the 150, normally they give them to you for a safety type project. It's unusual to split one like we have done. But under the apron rehab, with those 2 change orders that were necessary, we ended up using up all of our apron rehab money that was in that grant and then taking a piece of it out of the NPE grant. And so my understanding of that is the DOA is going to allow us to split that and keep the remainder of that money.
Great.
That's everything I'm understanding.
If they take it back, what do they do about the match? Do they pay it back?
Well, your match isn't spent. I mean, you don't spend your match until you actually draw down on the grant, so.
Yeah, so they just, every time that I send in a request for reimbursement, 90% of it is what the DOA sends us back, 10% is what's taken from the local, it splits it out. So they don't, yeah, so exactly.
So you don't really spend it until you use it all.
So those are the 2 matches, and that's always the biggie, is getting the matches on the grants. But the good news is we just got a request for reimbursement back for the apron rehab, not the apron rehab, I'm sorry, the widening of the runway, and it was $742,000, and so right now we're to the good. So our waiting is on the final pay estimate from the contractors when it comes in, and then we can ask for that reimbursement, and that's been enough. That one's been easy. The only reason that this apron rehab has been a little bit more difficult is because of what we did, because of the way we split the funding. It's not a big deal. I mean, it's not a big deal. It's just kind of slow.
Yeah, just light headache. People are alive.
And those DVEs, Nancy's fond of her DVE form. But we expect to get that any time. And then once we know what the final, I can figure out what we're going to ask back, and then I can give you all a total on what's going to be left in that grant. Once they reimburse and we sort of get everything down. We've got a really good idea, but I mean, I could give you kind of up to the agrees we've got left. It's what our finance office says we have left, and so it's, then I can give you the exact amount. And then again, my suggestion would be to tell Basil that's what you want to do with the lighting, get the bid on it, and then see how much it's going to cost. And you may even have some, I don't know, left over after that. I don't know.
Maybe Jimmy can do a little arm twisting on base.
Well, we always are advocates for trying to use the money at the airport that it's at, but that's getting to be more of a challenge now than it used to be. I'll just say it that way. Everybody's got their hand out, and if that's how they get their discretionary money is when a project comes in under budget and that money goes back in, they put it in a pot that they look at redistributing. Now you've got, you got as much of an argument, in my opinion, as any other airport.
We've been neglected so long by the mountains, I'm telling you. Everybody's been ahead of us for years, so it's time. It's catch-up time.
I will say one thing that they do look at, and that's why they are asking these monies to be turned back in these days, because in the past, there may have been $10 million sitting out there that you had at your airport, or 5 airports had $2 million apiece, and they weren't doing anything with it. And that's cash flow or cash strapping the system. So that's kind of what they're looking at now. And in your case, you actually do have a couple of grants. That $2 million grant, it's allocated to Macon County right now, but you haven't done anything with it.
We're going to.
Understand, but
Is
just
that
keeping that in mind.
750 before the last estimate, or is that after the last estimate?
That was after this pay estimate number 2 from
Is the final estimate?
there's one left. There's going to be one more
That
payment
contract
left,
was
and then
about a $2 million contract, but they're going to be under by probably at least $100,000, maybe. I haven't got all the final numbers yet, but you're going to have money left in that grant. You will not pay out what was actually contracted to the contractor based on the work that he's done. There will be money left in that grant to try to strong arm, if you will, to be able to stay here, but technically it'll be turned back in. It may be reallocated, but it will be not drawn down. It'll just be sitting.
I think it speaks volumes to the DOA, and I know Jimmy will agree with me that there have been multi-million-dollar projects ongoing, agreed to, matched for a while now. I mean, I think they're going to look at it as, well, you know, the Macon County does spend their money.
Yeah.
That they have a good relationship with the commissioners, they give their matches, and they spend the money, they're upgrading the airport. Like, y'all have had a major project like every year, or two, sometimes every.
And
two
that goes
major
a long
projects.
way in their decision making.
Yeah, it does.
If they see progress and see things happening, like I said, they don't like to allocate millions of dollars somewhere and it
Just
just sits there.
That makes sense. Okay, thank you so much, Teresa,
You're
for
welcome.
bringing us up to date on funding and where we're at. Agenda item number 8, and I have asked Mr. Jenkins if he would to kind of discuss the request that we had from Mrs. Evelyn Owens. It's been some time back, 3 months maybe. And so he's came up with some other innovative ideas that we might be able to talk about, maybe utilize for the benefit of Macon County. So Tommy, would you please go ahead?
I'm not sure how innovative, Mr. Chairman, but we did,
We'll call it that.
we've been thinking about how best to do this. At the EDC meeting in Highlands last week, we talked about, how we could use kiosks or the screen to highlight, our business environment in Macon County. We have a lot of people with obvious assets come through the county, but might look towards investing here at some time. So what my direction from the EDC, the consensus was to partner with the authority in coming up with some sort of kiosk that would also incorporate some advertising element, maybe from the realtors or other businesses in town, that would highlight, or in the county, that would highlight, the majority of it would highlight our major businesses that exist here and the opportunities we have here for business development. So if that sounds like a plan to you and the authority, we can start moving ahead.
I like the concept. I mean, when you mentioned me, I got all excited about it.
I think it's good concept, and I've seen it in the airports where I've been into before.
Is that right?
Yeah, so I think that'd be great.
It's just a matter, I've got to find somebody who has done that kind of work, who's interested in doing that work.
Put it together.
Put it together, because we want it to be nice, be professional.
So if I understand the concept, Tommy, if somebody comes through the lobby here, it's going to be set up, I suppose, out there in the lobby.
We'll work
Somewhere.
with Neil
Neil.
and Peggy and find a good location for it. It'll be screens.
Yeah, be on a nice big screen, and it would kind of highlight the attractions that we have here in the county. The potential for
Right, and it would be more, it would be business oriented.
business oriented. Yeah.
We can't advertise everybody and everything.
Well, I mean, that makes sense, yeah.
But, a lot of people don't realize, how what a major player Drake Software is, or Old Edwards Inn, or Shaw, or CAD, or Franklin Templeton. We have lots of assets we need to talk about. So,
Yeah.
showcase.
Jay, what do you think about that idea?
I think it's good. I don't know how you're gonna take it, choose who gets in, but
Well, that's the challenge.
Well, he's talking primarily from the promoting the economic development here in Macon County. He'll be one to make.
The advertising will be, the advertising that we sell will be.
The other side.
Yeah, we got to think a little bit about it. So.
Well, that'll take care of a lot of who gets in here.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's while you're doing that, it's going to kind of take care of itself. You don't have to pick and choose.
That's true. And I've got, the EDC has some funds. I'm hoping that we might be able to get some of our private partners to invest also. I'll keep working on it. That's the direction the
What's
authority
the
chooses.
consensus on? What do you think about this, Commissioner? Think that's a good idea?
Good. Revenue stream to plus.
We can promote Highlands up there.
That's right.
Big
That's
time.
right. Check our commerce, I'll pay a pretty penny for it.
Oh,
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll tell Bob you said
Second.
Tommy, are you talking about a digital print pictures, or are you talking about a static display, or what?
It'd be a screen, it would be digital.
Digital.
I don't know, like, you know, you say you go in the airport, it's sort of rotating,
Yeah.
something like that.
Maybe Norrell will donate us.
I was gonna say, you might need some very attractive pictures for.
Yeah, you're good. You know, highlight attractions here in Macon County.
For hire.
We did it great. But that's where we are with it, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Tommy, thanks so much for just, if you get something, hopefully you get something together by our next meeting, maybe.
Well, we're gonna have a finished product. but
Anything, if you need some,
We'll have an outline.
Well, outline, you know,
And then possibly
any
some-
kind of progress is better done.
That's true.
You know.
Like I would say, get with it.
Yeah. So if you need any help, I'm sure any member of the board here would be glad to help you with anything that you might
I'll
need.
be more than happy
I know
to
Pete-
assist.
Pete will help you. I mean, if you need to go anywhere, he'll do that.
I'll take
He'll
that
take
under
care of it.
advisement.
Other business. Neil?
Anything been discussed of the possibility of single point fueling upgrade?
Not recently, but it is certainly in the back of our mind on our
I didn't know
itinerary to
if
get
any of
done.
these grants could encompass that or not.
I did, I think one time Jimmy and I, maybe it was Eric and I talked about any kind of funding available for getting that capability installed here.
I'm not aware of it, but it's always doesn't hurt to ask. You know, fuel farms are eligible. I'm just not sure about that type of an upgrade. Just a nozzle. I don't know what.
How about trucks?
Trucks? No. That's usually the supply lease or fuel supplier.
You'd think these gas or oil companies would be open to leasing a truck for that sort of thing. Wouldn't you think? Have you talked to any of them, any of your suppliers?
As far as,
K got it.
I'm not sure who your supplier is. Eastern Aviation Fuels, is that who you are?
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be.
and as a rule of thumb, to lease a truck, you're looking at $700 or $800 a month.
You'd have to have
So,
two trucks.
hey,
one for Jet A.
Probably about $8,000 a year.
Well, that brings one more talk, Mark. That's pretty expensive. But anyway, all jokes aside, we do need to get that capability of being able to fuel these planes. Since one weekend you had, what, 4 jets here at one time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's
It's not
probably coming.
uncommon anymore.
Yeah. So,
And actually, a truck gives you greater latitude as far as spotting the
yeah, I think
airplane.
that, I'd be, myself personally, I think that'd be the route to go, get a truck, rather than have a station, a fixed station.
Fuel them all.
Yeah. Right.
Fuel them later on.
Right. That makes sense.
Park.
That makes sense to me. We'll keep looking into that, Neil, and see, you know, if it might be.
It's still,
A door might open up for us. you
it's
never
still
know.
getting more and more.
You know, when you're operating on a shoestring budget, it's hard to do. You want to do a lot of things, and we gotta.
You get those jets come in from Texas, they like that.
Champagne tastes, as old saying goes, a beer pocketbook, so. We're limited. Any other business? All minds are clear, Chairman, I take a motion that we adjourn.
So good.
I'll say. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Good luck.
Have a good day.